Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tiravana Chari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravana Chari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna
Today we read from A Transcendental Diary, Travels with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, October 1976 to November 1976, by Hari Shauri Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada has finally received a full account of the court case in New York. There are some major developments. We read this? No, maybe not. Okay. There are some major developments, and it is clear that our movement is under serious attack. In a special report, Tamal Krishna Maharaj detailed recent events centering around two devotees, Vasu Gopala Das and Murti Vanya Dasi. Both of them were kidnapped by thugs, now advertised as deprogrammers, hired by their parents in an attempt to break their faith in Krishna consciousness. As a result, Vasu Gopala left for some time, but then came back. Murti Vanya, on the other hand, could not be broken by their tactics, and once free of their clutches, decided to file a criminal suit against both her parents and the deprogrammers. This was about 2 months ago. Her irate parents, frustrated in their attempts to take her out of the movement, then contacted a group known as Rescue, a national group composed mainly of parents who have joined various religious groups with connections to professional deprogrammers. They decided to use the opportunity as a test case to attack us, and in the process, the fundamental right of any person to practice a religion of their choice. Tamal Krishna described what seemed to be an outrageous abrogation of the process of law. The district attorney called a private meeting, grand jury hearing, and many parents of children who have left our or other movements testified that our movement was controlling people by mind control, also known as brainwashing. The amazing thing about the jury is that the district attorney got over 1/2 of the members of the jury to consist of parents whose children left various cults and who were therefore very antagonistic towards our society. After hearing so many one-sided testimonies, never was our side ever called into hearing or informed of it. The jury dropped the charges against the parents and deprogrammer, and instead the state indicted our society, our temple president Adikeshava Swami, and another devotee, Tri Das, on charges of unlawful detainment of Vasu Gopal and Murti Vanya Dasi by threat of violence, brainwashing. And also a second criminal charge of grand larceny was placed on our society and the temporal president, Adi Keshava Swami, for supposedly trying to extort $20,000 from Vasu Gopal's father, for which we supposedly agreed to hand him over his son. Tridas and Adikeshava Swami were immediately arrested, and Vasu Gopal and Murti Vanya Dasi were put under arrest as material witnesses and held on 50,000 bail each. Eventually, Adikeshava Swami and Tridas were allowed to go on their own recognizance, but despite all efforts, Vasu Gopal has now been placed in a mental institution in Massachusetts for surveillance to determine his competency to testify, and the district attorney is attempting the same thing with Murti Vanya Dasi. The actual trial will not come up for 6 to 8 weeks. In the meantime, the district attorney will attempt in every way possible to destroy Vasu Gopal and Murti Vanya's Krishna consciousness, and thus have them testify as witnesses against our society and Adikeshava Maharaj. Tamal Krishna Maharaj listed 5 issues that the district attorney is pursuing under a demand to investigate the internal affairs of our society. 1. The right of our movement to exist as a bona fide religion. 2. The right of adult individual devotees, Vasu Gopala and Murti Vanya Dasi, are each over 21 years of age, to belong to the Krishna consciousness movement and not be taken out by their parents against their will. 3. Whether our devotees are participating in Krishna consciousness due to faith in God, or are they kept in our movement by psychological manipulation, brainwashing? 4. Do we, as a minority religious group, have the right of due process of the law? 5. Do we have the right to collect donations and distribute books as a non-profit religious organization, or are we a commercial enterprise whose accounts can be investigated and eventually taxed? Wait, this is going to go on for a while. I'll just read a little bit more. He commented that the court's decisions so far had been strange, considering that the U.S. Constitution guarantees freedom of religion. The freedom of our movement is being severely tested, he continued. There is a nationwide feeling that the various cults, Guru Maharaji, the Munis, and others, are cheating and dangerous and should be driven out of America. Unfortunately, we have been lumped in with this group. This case is of major significance because it will determine in the future whether at any moment devotees can be taken right out of the movement against their will by misunderstanding relatives and the officers of our movement jailed. The court case has been planned for months by our opponents, and they have numerous influential persons to testify against us, as well as substantial funds to finance the legal proceedings. At the arraignment, for us, there were not less than 7 lawyers representing their parents. Nothing that the mass media has taken up in the case with full relish. Noting that the mass media has taken up the case with full relish, he enclosed a number of newspaper clippings, both local and international. He said that in our favor we have very qualified and sympathetic lawyers. Beyond that, the Constitution of the U.S. and the whole legal system is our greatest defense. Noting that brainwashing has already been rejected by the courts because it cannot be defined medically. He said that the issue is still very tricky. Devotees on both the east and west coasts have taken the offensive and already called a major press conference to good effect, and he enclosed some statements by prominent sympathetic professors. With Balavanta Prabhu heading up our public relations work, and with R. Marendra Prabhu as his chief assistant, a major publicity campaign is being launched to counteract bad publicity. In addition, he added, Satsvarup Maharaj is now contacting favorable professors to garner their support in the courtroom. I will end it there. It's on a good note, but it goes on further. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What are they doing in this deprogramming program?
I spoke to somebody who was, deprogrammed twice, or 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And she told me that they made them eat meat. They read the nectar of devotion, and they learn about all these offenses. The science of Bhakti Yoga is all in there. Nectar of Devotion, the crucial book. They learn about all these offenses, and they force the devotees to commit them.
Okay.
Eating meat, stepping on the scriptures, blaspheming the Lord and his devotees, stuff like that.
Okay.
But they did not prevail. The end of the story is they went to the Supreme Court, and the judge said, and this is in the Prabhupada movie, that they are getting the results. They are benefiting from the results of a bona fide religion, a very ancient bona fide religion. I think the roots in India or something like that. So that's very important. So, these demons are not that strong, obviously. They have their limits. And, yeah.
Actually,
Yes, sir.
America was always famous for religious freedom. Yeah. And Bhagavad also thanked the American nation. He wrote a letter to the American nation, an open letter, thanking them for allowing him what he had done. And when you compare America to the rest of the world, like just imagine Parliament would have come to Germany, he would have immediately been thrown out. And if he would have gone to other countries, France, worse, because they're very socialistic since a long time. So actually America is known for its religious freedom. That's why so many people, there was one couple here in Germany, they didn't want to send their children to the public schools. And so they had a whole court case here. I don't think it came to court case, but they went to America, as they took asylum in America. And they agreed to give them the asylum because they were religiously persecuted.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool.
This was a big thing here in the German press also one time. When they went to America, the German press, they lost interest. Because it's a different mentality.
Right.
Anyway, this brainwashing was very heavy. Here in Germany, we also had some enemies who were working on destroying us practically. There was a priest, Pfarrer Haag, and there were some others, also a mother of a devotee. What was her name? Anyway, but we came out victorious. In Prabhupada, we heard from the diary of Asari that Prabhupada was very inspired by this whole thing. And it was a good fight for Srila Prabhupada. And he was preaching to the people, firing them up, explaining what they should say, and one of the things that he said also, they should, if they want to find out if we are bona fide religion, they should read the whole Bhagavatam. Then they find out.
He's Zöpel.
Huh?
Zöpel, no?
Zöpel. Yeah, Frau Zöpel. That was a big challenge.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So now we are going to continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have here the 5th canto in German. If somebody would like to read the German version while I'm reading the English. Sometimes I notice that you're reading the German, is it? Would you like to read this?
I have.
Oh, you have it. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Oh, yes, sir. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today we read from the 5th canto, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 2, The Activities of Maharaj Agnidhra, verse 10. Vacham parang charana panjarati tirinam.
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 Brahman arupa mukharang srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharam srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharang srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharam srinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchir anka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchir anka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Yasyam alata paridikva chakva kalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva kalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva valkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva valkalante.
Vacham param charana panjarati tirina.
Vacham param charana panjarati tirina.
Brahman arupa mukarang srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchir anka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
वाचं परं चरण पंजरतित्तिरीणाम्
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
ब्रह्मन् अरूपमुकरां सुनवां तुभ्यम्
Brahman arupam mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
लब्धा कदम्ब रुचिरङ्क विटङ्क बिम्बे
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
श्यामलात परिधिक्वच वल्कलं ते
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Brahman arupa mukaram
Brahman arupa mukaram
srinavamatubhyam.
srinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Yasyam alata
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Ladies,
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Brahman arupa mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Vacham param charana panjaratitirinaam.
Brahman arupa mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukaram srinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Yasyam alata paridikva chavalkalante.
Vacham
Vacham
the resounding vibration, param, only, charana panjara, of the ankle bells, titirinam, of the titiri birds, Brahman, O Brahmana, Arupa, without form, Mukaram, able to be very distinctly heard, Srinavama, I hear, Tubhyam, your, Labdha, gotten, Kadamba, like the Kadamba flower, Ruchihi, lovely color, Anka, Vitanka Bimbe, on the beautiful circular hips, Yasyam, on which, Alata Paridihi, encirclement of burning cinders, Kva, where, Cha, also, Valkalam, covering cloth, Te, your. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharya Naravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Brahmana, I can simply hear the tinkling of your ankle bells. Within those bells, titiri birds seem to be chirping among themselves, although I do not see their forms. I can hear how they are chirping. When I look at your beautiful circular hips, I see they are the lovely color of Kadamba flowers, and your waist is encircled by a belt of burning cinders. Indeed, you seem to have forgotten to dress yourself. Okay, sorry. Purport. With lusty desires to see Purvachiti, Agnidra especially gazed upon the girl's attractive hips and waist. When a man looks upon a woman with such lusty desires, he is captivated by her face, her breasts, and her waist. For a woman first attracts a man to fulfill his sexual desires by the beautiful features of her face, by the beautiful slope of her breasts, and also by her waist. Purvachita was dressed in fine yellow silk, and therefore her hips looked like Kadamba flowers. Because of her belt, her waist seemed to be encircled by burning cinders. She was fully dressed, but Agnidra had become so lusty that he asked, "Why have you come naked?" So I'm pretty sure we read this before.
Yeah.
So I will read the next one. I like to read Sanskrit, so I will read the Sanskrit also. We will skip the word for word. Kim sambritang ruchira yor dvija sringa yoste madhye krisho vahasi yatra drisi srita me panko runa suravir atma visana idrig yenasramang subhaga me surabhi karoshi. Translation. Agnidra then praised Purvachiti's raised breasts. He said, "My dear Brahmana, your waist is very thin, yet with great difficulty you are carefully carrying 2 horns." To which my eyes have become attracted. What is filling those two beautiful horns? You seem to have spread fragrant red powder upon them, powder that is like the rising morning sun. O most fortunate one, I beg to inquire where you have gotten this fragrant powder that is perfuming my ashram, my place of residence. Purport. Agnidra appreciated Purvachiti's raised breasts. After seeing the girl's breasts, he became almost mad. Nevertheless, he could not recognize whether Purvachiti was a boy or a girl, for as a result of his austerity, he saw no distinction between the two. He therefore addressed her with the word Dvija, O Brahmana. Yet why should a Dvija, a Brahmana boy, have horns on his chest? Because the boy's waist was thin. Agnija thought he was carrying the horns with great difficulty, and therefore they must be filled with something very valuable. Otherwise, why would he carry them? When a woman's waist is thin and her breasts are full, she looks very attractive. Agnija, his eyes attracted, contemplated the heavy breasts on the girl's thin body, and imagined how her back must sustain them. Agnija imagined that her raised breasts were two horns she had covered with cloths, so that others would not see the valuables within them. Agnija, however, was very anxious to see them. Therefore, he requested, please uncover them so that I can see what you are carrying. Rest assured, I shall not take it away. If you feel an inconvenience in removing the covering, I can help you. I myself can uncover them to see what valuable things those raised horns contain. He was also surprised to see the red dust of perfumed kumkum spread over her breasts. Nevertheless, still considering Purvachiti a boy, Agnidra addressed her as Subhaga, most fortunate Muni. The boy must have been fortunate, otherwise simply by standing there, could he perfume Agnidra's entire ashram? Om Anjana Timir Andasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. All right. So I will talk about the purport. It's a very nice purport. The reason it's funny for me is because I have so many material desires on this topic that it makes me laugh. It makes me kind of feel nervous. But actually what is happening here is something that I know I have experienced, and probably some of you can also relate to, but you see, this material energy is really powerful. I mean, if you look in the Bhagavatam in the first verse, it says, Projita Kaitavotra Amrisha, right? It's almost factual. It appears to be factual. It's almost real. Like the illusion of water seen in the desert, or fire seen in water. When water makes this kind of ripples and the sun is on it, it looks like there's fire in the water. So it looks almost real. It just appears to be, it's so real, like of artificial intelligence or something. It just seems so real, but it's false. And it's so how do you say this word? It's so it's so bewildering. It is completely bewildering. And we can see this person is practicing hardcore austerities, right? And they are bewildered. Completely. Like, really bewildered. And even so much so that he thinks that he is actually trying to help. Let me help you. Let me help you undress. He's so bewildered. And that's how the material energy is. The material energy causes us to completely forget. Completely forget. So much that we think we are doing right when we are doing wrong. And this is in the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about understanding in the mode of ignorance, when you don't know, when you do the right thing, you endeavor always in the wrong direction. In the mode of passion, you cannot distinguish what is right and what is wrong. You cannot make distinction between these two. They appear to be the same. You don't know, you're confused. What should I do? And if you don't know what to do and you act, then you'll probably do something on the material platform, the sensual platform. And that's what's happening to Agnidra. I should probably wear this. He is bewildered, completely bewildered. And I mean, I can't really give him a hard time about that because I have been bewildered before also. It reminds me of myself. Many times I've acted in a way trying to help, thinking, well, I'm just trying to help. I'm preaching to her, But I was so bewildered. I was so bewildered that I thought I was doing the right thing, that I just set aside the precaution, the culture, the etiquette, all these things. I put them aside, everything that we learn about in Krishna consciousness, even in social life, social norms, how to behave. I completely forgot them. Completely gone. And I was just tricked myself into thinking I was serving Krishna. And I was really just serving my material desires in a big way. And that's what's happening here. So this is a lesson for everybody, actually. I will share with you a short anecdote. And then I will use that anecdote to explain something. It's like an introduction to something I want to explain. My nephew works, he's a devotee. My nephew's a devotee. He has 2 devotee children, Abhimanyu and Shringadev. And he lives in North Carolina with his devotee wife. His name is Sri Arjuna. Anyway, he was working as a security guard. And I talked to him regularly. And I said to him, Sri Arjuna, what you should do something. You're in a job where you could be suddenly faced with having to make a decision without much pre-thought. You don't have time to think what is the right thing to do. And you might be confused about what to do. So you should know right now, when you're calm and relaxed, what is the limit when you take action? Where is the limit where you actually, because in America you can use a little bit of violence. Where is the limit where you actually engage physically? Decide that now, not when you're enraged by the mode of passion. Not when you're totally drunk with the mode of passion and ignorance. Don't make that decision then. Make that decision now, so that when you see the signs, your intelligence is already fixed up. This is what I do, now I do it. Now's the time to act. And now I want to tell you why that is relative to this purport. We should understand, by virtue of our philosophy, how to act under certain situations. Not that we wait until we are completely intoxicated by the motive and passion, and then decide what I should do. Right? We should know now, with our intelligence, when we are in the mode of goodness, we should map these things out. Decide, how am I going to respond when that happens? How will I react when I go down to the prasadam hall and there's 3 different cakes and so many nice pakoras and chutney? Because right now in my room I know I'll take a piece of cake, but I just need a couple of pakoras and a little bit of chutney. It's not a big deal. I'm not that hungry. I'm not working hard like an animal. I'm reading all day. Holy cow, I press on the typewriter, Decide that in your room. Decide that before you go out and know when you're going to enter into a place where you'll be intoxicated by the mode of passion. Know how you should, at least know how you should respond. You may not have the strength at that time, but figure it out ahead of time. What will I do then? And the best thing to do is to cry to Krishna. Cry to your Guru. Like that. Because only they can save you. You don't have the strength to save yourself. And that's what we acknowledge when we accept Krishna consciousness. I don't have the strength to save myself. Therefore, I surrender to authority. That's what it means. That's why we do that. That's so important, to surrender to authority. You do not have the strength to save yourself. You don't have it. That's why you accept this philosophy. If you had it, you wouldn't accept it. You would go somewhere in the mountains and practice some austerities And then some beautiful girl would come along with horns on her chest. So right now, you should try to learn what it means to accept authority. That means you should read every day as a regular daily function. Just like you're chanting Hare Krishna every day is a regular daily function. Because by reading these Bhakti Vedanta purports, that's what it means when we say read every day. It means Bhakti Vedanta purports. And if you have doubts or questions, you should approach your spiritual master or your spiritual authority. And always depend upon, right? This is how it works. We have to get mercy from above. We depend upon that link in the parampara. Right? For most of us, it's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. But that's important. It's actually very important. Maya is very tricky. Don't think that you can tangle with her. She's more powerful. She will trick you into thinking you're doing the right thing. You're only trying to help. You've been tricked. Take shelter. Take shelter. Be afraid. Be afraid, because she will rip you apart. Pull you right out of it, Put the wool over your eyes completely. You don't know what you're doing. So it's okay to be afraid of Maya. But that fear should inspire you to take shelter of the devotees. Take shelter of the scripture. Take shelter of the holy name. The person, this is Nam Avatar, Harinam Prabhu. And don't also, another thing which is very important in this Krishna consciousness, probably relevant to some people, is that be careful where you are in your association. Right? Be careful where you are in your association. Agnidra was alone, a place where beautiful women go to hang out, and of course, what happened, right? So be careful where you go. When you expose yourself, you're exposing your senses. There are 14 of them. You expose them. You go outside of the temple, you're exposing them. So you have to be fixed up in your mind. What are you doing? Okay, I'm going to go buy boga for the Lord. I'm going to do some preaching, distribute books for Krishna. I'm going for a jog because of my health, so I can have better health in kirtan or something like that, right? You want to always be fixed up in your mind so that you're not distracted, because out there it's full of distractions. I mean, you look on every billboard, there's some advertisement. They want to attract you through one of your senses. They want to hook you. So be fixed up always in your mind. Don't let your mind wander. Idol's mind is a devil's workshop. But we don't believe in the devil, which is fine. We believe in demons, rakshasas. But Krishna is all powerful. There's no competition. And so the point is that you want to be careful where you go with your association, who you associate with, how you associate, right? What you're eating, that is association. Right? Don't eat boga. Don't eat this boga cooked by non-bhaktas. It's written in scripture not to do that, because their thoughts go into the grains in the beans. Right? It's okay to, like that. It's just right inside. And then you have these weird dreams, or weird thoughts, or just bad consciousness. You feel like not good. So don't do like that. Be careful how you associate, where you associate. And know how you will respond to certain situations. Be very careful. This is a great example. This devotee is practicing these hardcore austerities, so hardcore, he can't distinguish between the genders. I mean, this lady sounds like she looks really attractive, but he can't tell. She's got horns on her chest. And his ashram smells really good because of the red dust on the horns or something. So, how powerful it is. And Maya is so powerful. So always, that's why Prabhupada also said, always chant Hare Krishna. Not just in the morning. All the time. It's very important. Even, you can not necessarily be like the river, like sometimes in the ocean, it's such a strong tide, the water pulls you out into the ocean, then you're gone. That's it, forever. Done. But you may not get that far out there, and you can still be in Maya. In other words, we're trying to make advancement. We're climbing up this ladder. But sometimes we slip down a few rungs. Well, we don't want that to happen. We don't want to slip. So if you have a little slip, find out why it happened. Why am I chanting better rounds today than I was yesterday? What happened yesterday? Why did I forget Krishna for the whole afternoon? Those pakoras were pretty good. Krishna was gone immediately. He said, oh, you don't want me anymore. Right? Don't let it happen to you. Try to, this is hard work. We're climbing up a fence, scaling a ladder. So pay attention, introspect, look inside, serious business, spiritual boot camp, hardcore. It's a big deal. And, I would not be able to, I'd be finished. Definitely. But, are there any questions in that regard? Jai, yes, sir.
Maybe just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Prabhupada was saying that he would that one concern about his disciples that they had not enough fear of the Maya.
Yes, I remember this also. Because we think, it's easy to think that we can rescue ourselves because we become strong swimmers in the ocean. We think we can swim in the material ocean as well, but we cannot. No matter how strong of a swimmer you are, no matter how strong of a combatant you are, how good you are at playing rugby, or whatever it may be, how physically strong you are, how intelligent you are, it doesn't matter. If you're not taking shelter in this parampara, then it's going to be very difficult. Anything else would like to be said? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, sir. Yes, sir? Yes, ma'am.
I was listening the other day to a lecture of His Holiness Kadamba Swami.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was explaining that tapasya, austerity, and renunciation will not ultimately, they are processes, they will not ultimately give us love of God. So, some people are kind of attracted in a way to get, into fasting or, following very rigid, diet, for example, and this kind of thing. But yeah, and it's very nice, definitely. It's like dandavats, you would say. But he also pointed out how these processes are just kind of helping, but they will not give us love of God. What will give us love of God is chanting the holy name, singing with the devotees, associating with the devotees, and worshipping the deities. So like that. Just.
Thank you. This is a very nice comment. Austerity and renunciation. So what does it mean to renounce, right? So it's not an open question. Maharaj, actually, I'm sorry, Maharaj, you would like to say something?
Yeah, there's also different kinds of austerities that she mentioned. Being punctual, be very careful when you cook for the deities, and when you chant, be careful to chant properly and all that. That's also austerities. And actually these kind of austerities help us to wake up within the heart our love for Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's very nice.
And another thing is also Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Kayakita Javashashvayagya Jnana. You know the verse?
Jnana Vairagya Mahaitukam.
Jnana Vairagya. The verse is from the Bhagavatam. It says, if you occupy the devotional service to Krishna, naturally you become detached. And knowledge and detachment manifest naturally. And I also wanted to mention something about the principles, about the attraction between the sexes. We have the four regulated principles. And when you follow the four regulated principles, naturally, or seriously, naturally, you become also more detached. You get more strength and everything. Just like, we follow the principles, and maybe also depending on the time, maybe, but you become older, and you become more detached and more philosophical and more, you see things as they are. And when you come into difficult situations, you just take shelter. What's the big deal?
Yeah, very nice. Thank you very much. Can I just say a little bit more about what you said here?
Sorry?
I would, if you're finished, I would just like to talk a little bit about these 2 points you made. Especially this Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Vairagya verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. These things are automatically, so this is what he has said, right? It's very important. This part that by performing devotional service, Jnanam and Vairagyam automatically are occurring. This is a very important point that Maharaj is making right here. It means that we don't have to pursue these 2 things separately. And if we do, then they could even become a hindrance, because now we're not pursuing bhakti, we're pursuing jnana.
These are our austerities, the four regulated principles.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, yes, sir.
And initiation is given to those who are actually serious about that. For us to follow the principles is not as difficult as for non-devotees. To not eat nothing that is not offered to Krishna, this is become our life. We always ask, is this offered? Where is this coming from? Who cooked that? Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Especially when you're a sannyasi or spiritual master, and everyone is cooking for you, all this. One has a tendency to ask, who cooked this? Or when you sit in your room above the kitchen, and you hear during the kitchen so much prajalpa in the kitchen, and so much Krishna conscious things that are going on there. That's why naturally you start asking, who's cooking this? You understand?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have nothing to add to that.
And also when we travel, I'm used to travel all the time. Now I'm a little stuck here. But you have to be very careful of what you eat. Like sometimes I'm traveling and there's nothing to eat. And I have to go and buy something. And you have the tendency as a devotee to check very carefully what is in there and what is there and this. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And also the way you relate to the other, how is it, Geschlecht? What is it, Geschlecht?
Gender.
Huh?
To the other gender.
Yeah, the other gender. That's part of our training in Krishna consciousness. And the more you have responsibility, the more you are responsible that you give them a good example also. Yeah. And like Krishna says, whatever great man does, common man will follow. So, anyway. And that's good. I remember I used to do a Bhakti program in Schloss Nettershof. There was a Bhakti leader at that time. And the devotees would be sent from all the temples to be trained at that particular program. And I was the first one to get up in the morning and wake everybody else up. And I had to do everything. This was actually a very nice position because you had to give an example. You had to, be an example for everything. And because the leader is an example, naturally everyone takes it serious. Because everyone, he's also doing. He's not just talking theory or how to say. So the more responsibility you have as a devotee, the more you're obliged to give the example, to be a leader, and to follow. I say, give an example to the rest of the world. Devotional service is the perfect ground to be safe in the material world. The problems start when you start deviating and not occupied in devotional service. Then everything becomes like a danger every step. This kind of. Isn't it? I mean,
yes, sir, I agree with you.
I'm old school.
No, this
What kind of psychology is that? And you feel good also, people.
yeah.
You don't want to lose the good thing. Isn't it? Is it really?
Gauradesh Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Trzeba kupić.